Humanity had ascended beyond the stars, having forged alliances with dozens of species across the galaxy. The age of exploration and discovery was at its peak. Earth had become a beacon of strength, civilization, and diplomacy. Their fleets, once humble in their power, now stretched across the galaxy, patrolling trade routes and maintaining the peace of the galaxy's ever-expanding borders. The Galactic Council, where Earth's voice resonated with authority, was a symbol of unity, a world united under a common banner. But this peace was always precarious, held together by nothing more than the fragile threads of diplomacy. And no species, no matter how advanced, had dared challenge the might of humanity until now. It began as all great threats do, with a single signal. A mysterious transmission crackled through human space. It was first intercepted by the Galactic Council's Deep Space Observatory, a relic of humanity's early days of space exploration. The signal, faint but unmistakable, was a challenge, one that would set the stage for a confrontation unlike any humanity had ever known. First contact with the Zora. The message came from beyond the Outer Rim, a vast, uncharted sector of the galaxy. When the signal source was traced, it led to the discovery of a new species, one that humanity had never encountered before. The species was called the Zora, and they were not like any race humanity had known. Their appearance alone was enough to send chills to the bravest of souls. Insectoid in shape, with segmented bodies and razor-sharp limbs, their eyes gleaming with malice. The transmission itself was simple, chilling in its brevity. Submit to our rule or be exterminated. A declaration. A threat. One that carried the weight of their ominous promise. Humanity had faced adversaries before, but none with the cold certainty and arrogance of the Zora. The Galactic Council, ever hopeful for diplomatic solutions, called for negotiations. But Earth's leaders, having seen countless species rise and fall, knew this threat was different. The Zora were not interested in peace. They wanted submission. The Council sent a delegation, but the Zora didn't wait for talks to begin. The Zora's first strike, Vega Station. Within days, the Zora made their move. Their fleet, vast and seemingly endless, appeared in the Vega system, a peaceful human colony known for its scientific research and trade. It was a strategic target, an easy mark for the invaders. Earth's defenses, though powerful, were scattered across the galaxy, and Vega Station, isolated and unprepared for a full-scale invasion, had no chance. The Zora unleashed their full might. Swarms of insectoid ships descended from the dark, their weapons tearing through Vega Station's defenses with terrifying efficiency. The human fleet, stationed far away, was too late to respond. Within hours, the once thriving station was reduced to a pile of rubble. The surviving colonists, left floating in the void, were taken prisoner or killed by the relentless Zora warriors. The attack was brutal, no mercy, no quarter given. The humans had been utterly unprepared for the sheer ferocity and speed of the Zora's assault. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt the sting of vulnerability. Humanity's resolve: we will not bow. The Galactic Council's pleas for diplomacy were met with silence from the Zora. They had made their intent clear. No peaceful negotiations would stop them. Earth's leaders knew what they had to do. But this was not just about defending a colony. This was about defending humanity's very existence. The moment the news of Vega Station's annihilation reached Earth, a wave of anger swept through the human race. The colony had been home to thousands of scientists, engineers, and civilians, people who contributed to humanity's greatest achievements. The Zora's cold, merciless attack struck at the heart of everything humanity stood for. Admiral Evelyn Ward, commander of the United Earth Fleet, spoke the words that would become the rallying cry for humanity's war effort. We will not bow to invaders. We will show them why we are the greatest species in the galaxy. The fleets were called to action, but this was not the usual preparation for war. This was different. Humanity was angry, furious. For the first time in the history of intergalactic diplomacy, Earth was about to take the offensive, and they would not stop until the Zora were wiped from existence. The declaration of war. The declaration came swiftly. The Zora had killed with impunity, and they had threatened humanity's very way of life. The Council's typical diplomatic responses were over. Humanity was no longer interested in making peace. The message sent to the Zora was blunt. We have been patient. We have been reasonable. But now we are coming for you. You will not escape. Humanity's war machine sprang to life in ways no one had imagined. Ships previously designed for peacekeeping were retrofitted for war. Massive dreadnoughts were outfitted with devastatingly powerful energy cannons capable of decimating entire fleets. Stealth bombers, capable of slipping through enemy lines unseen, were mobilized. Earth scientists worked around the clock to devise new weaponry, including experimental plasma weapons and gravity-based bombs. The human race was ready to show the universe the full extent of their wrath. Revenge is a dish best served cold. In the aftermath of Vega Station's destruction, Earth's leadership faced an existential decision: strike back with everything we have, or risk our very survival. Humanity's response was swift, ruthless, and unrelenting. The anger of a species wronged burned hotter than any star, and Earth's leaders knew this was not just about vengeance. It was about ensuring that no one, ever again, would dare to underestimate humanity. Admiral Evelyn Ward stood at the helm of Earth's forces, a woman of iron resolve and unmatched tactical genius. The days of diplomacy were over. The Zora had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The Federation's fleets were no longer just defenders of peace. They had become harbingers of destruction. Humanity's forces assembled for their counterstrike, an operation codenamed Wrath of Earth. It would not be a calculated, cautious engagement. This would be an all-out assault, a violent explosion of power that would send a clear message. Never again. The Zora, having underestimated humanity's capacity for vengeance, were in for a shock. Their fleets were massive, but they lacked the deep, ingrained rage that spurred the human race to action. The Zora, cold and methodical, never anticipated that the species they so arrogantly sought to dominate would rise in fury, like an avalanche descending upon an unsuspecting mountain. The Battle of Epsilon 9. The first battle to shake the Zora to their core took place at Epsilon 9, a system on the edge of human space. The Zora had positioned their forces there, preparing to strike deeper into humanity's territory. They thought they had the advantage. Their fleet was larger, their weapons deadly, and their soldiers ruthless. They were wrong. Admiral Ward's fleet arrived in force, bringing with them every weapon at humanity's disposal. The human warships, sleek and angular, glistened like the teeth of some cosmic predator. Massive dreadnoughts cut through the darkness of space, while swarms of stealth bombers darted like deadly insects, invisible to the enemy. Humanity's fleets, though smaller in numbers, moved with precision and intelligence that the Zora could not anticipate. The Zora opened fire first, unleashing hell upon the human fleet. Waves of energy beams and explosive shells rained down, but humanity's ships moved with uncanny agility, evading much of the onslaught. What the Zora didn't realize was that humanity's true weapon was not their technology alone, but their minds, sharp, adaptable, and able to think several steps ahead of the enemy. At the heart of the battle, the flagship of the human fleet, the Phoenix, led the charge. Armed with a devastating new weapon, Plasma Bane, a weapon capable of firing concentrated plasma beams hot enough to tear through a capital ship in seconds. The Phoenix's crew, driven by the memory of Vega Station, fought with unrelenting fury. The Zora retaliated with their terrifying bioswarms, a devastatingly efficient weapon that released millions of insectoid creatures onto human ships. These bioweapons could tear through armor and devour entire crew sections in minutes. But humanity had anticipated this. As the swarms descended, humanity unleashed a series of anti-swarm EMP pulses, disintegrating the swarms with precision. The battle at Epsilon 9 was long and bloody, but in the end, it was a resounding victory for humanity. The Zora fleet, caught off guard by the ingenuity and ferocity of human tactics, was left shattered, scattered across the cold reaches of space. The Zora had lost nearly half of their fleet, but Admiral Ward was not content with a single victory. This was only the beginning. Humanity's hidden edge, unrelenting willpower, the true force that set humanity apart, that the Zora never saw coming, was their unrelenting willpower. Humans fought with ferocity born not just from their weapons, but from the sheer emotion that drove them, anger, love, and the will to survive. The Zora were a species that saw themselves as conquerors, driven by cold logic and ruthless calculation. but they had never experienced the kind of fury humanity could bring. Humanity fought not just for survival, but for revenge, and there was no stopping them once they were enraged. The human soldiers, fleet commanders, and civilians alike understood the stakes. They fought with everything they had, determined to avenge the destruction of Vega Station and prevent the Zora from ever threatening their species again. Each battle, each skirmish, fed into human rage. The survivors of Vega Station, now scattered across Earth's military facilities, became symbols of humanity's resolve. They would never forget what had been done to their people, and they were eager to return the favor. Even Earth's once peaceful civilians, who had never before known war, felt the call to action. Volunteers flooded military recruitment stations, eager to strike back at the Zora invaders. The Zora's retaliation, the battle for Earth. But the Zora were not a species to be cowed easily. Their pride had been wounded, and they would strike back. When the news reached them of their catastrophic defeat at Epsilon 9, their leaders, General Threx among them, launched a retaliatory campaign aimed directly at the heart of humanity, Earth itself. The Zora assembled a massive fleet, larger than anything humanity had ever seen, and set their sights on Earth. It was a statement, a declaration that they would not be driven off. Earth would fall. The Zora were determined to wipe humanity out and put an end to the growing resistance. The Zora assault was launched under the cover of darkness. Their fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, a towering armada, ready to rain devastation down upon humanity's homeworld. They deployed their full force, massive orbital bombardment cannons, weapons designed to turn entire continents to ash. But humanity was prepared. Earth had long been the epicenter of humanity's technological ingenuity, and now it was time to showcase their true power. Hidden deep beneath the surface of Earth were weapons unlike anything the Zora had seen, a doomsday device designed not just to defend, but to destroy any threat to Earth's existence. As the Zora began their descent, bombarding Earth's surface with plasma beams and heavy artillery, Admiral Ward activated a hidden weapon, a gravity pulse generator that created a massive gravitational anomaly, sending shock waves across the battlefield. The Zora fleet found themselves caught in an impossible gravitational pull, their ships grinding against the pull of Earth's gravity. Their once unstoppable assault quickly faltered. Turning the tide, with their ships disabled, humanity's fleets moved in. The battle for Earth had begun. Humanity's warships, now fully operational and brimming with firepower, tore into the disorganized Zora fleet. The tides of war had shifted, and Earth's defenders fought with a single goal in mind: total annihilation of the invaders. The Zora, realizing they had underestimated humanity's capacity for destruction, tried to retreat, but it was too late. They were already too deep in Earth's orbit, and humanity's firepower was overwhelming. The Phoenix led the charge once more, firing its plasma bane directly into the Zora flagship Zorith 1, obliterating it in a single devastating shot. The Zora had made the ultimate mistake. They had provoked a species unlike any other, a species that would not stand idly by while its people were slaughtered. Humanity had struck back with a vengeance, and now, the Operation Wrath of Earth. The Zora thought they could defeat humanity through sheer power and numbers, but they hadn't counted on Earth's most terrifying weapon, human ingenuity. After the Battle of Earth's orbit, where the human fleet turned the tide and forced the Zora to retreat, humanity was ready for the next stage in their campaign, Operation Wrath of Earth. This was not merely a counterattack. This was humanity's declaration that no species would ever threaten Earth again. It was not just about victory. It was about absolute annihilation. Admiral Evelyn Ward stood before a holographic map in the war room, the weight of countless lost lives pressing down on her. The victory at Earth had been only temporary. The Zora had retreated, but their war machine was still intact, and their homeworld, Zorith, was hidden deep within the fringes of their territory. The Zora would rebuild, and they would strike again. Humanity needed to end this once and for all. "We're going to take the fight to them," Admiral Ward said, her voice firm. No mercy, no survivors. Humanity had already proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. But now they would unleash everything, every weapon, every resource, every ounce of anger, to ensure that the Zora would never again pose a threat. The United Earth Fleet had undergone a radical transformation. Their technology, fueled by both desperation and rage, had been advanced beyond recognition. Planet-killing torpedoes, black hole generators, and quantum energy bombs now filled the human warships. The Zora had believed that their advanced tech and biological weapons could wipe out humanity. They were wrong. The target was simple: the Zora homeworld, Zorith, a barren planet located at the outer reaches of their empire. This would be the final battle. The Battle of Zorith won a war of attrition. The Zora fleet, once an unshakable force, was reeling from the loss of their massive ships at Earth. Their morale was shattered, but they were still formidable. They had retreated to Zorith, their fortress world, surrounded by an armada of ships. Their leaders knew that this was their last stand. There would be no escape. The battle that followed was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity's fleet entered the Zora system with a force that nearly blinded the sensors of any observer. The Phoenix, flagship of humanity, led the charge, flanked by the entire remaining fleet of human ships. Behind them were fleets of human mercenaries, allied species, and civilians who had volunteered to avenge Vega Station and protect their homeworld. Humanity's fleets moved in perfect synchronization, each ship a well-oiled machine of war. But it wasn't just their firepower that made them a terrifying force. It was their relentless adaptability. Humans didn't fight by the book. When they found themselves in a situation where the enemy had the upper hand, they adapted in real time, thinking on their feet and improvising tactics the Zora could not anticipate. The battle started in the cold void of space, with both fleets taking positions. The Zora fired first, launching waves of plasma beams and artillery rounds that tore through the dark. The human fleets dodged and countered, launching a barrage of energy pulses that lit up the void like stars going nova. But it was when humanity's experimental weapons came into play that the battle truly shifted. Humanity's gravity pulse technology, developed from the same systems used to defend Earth, was unleashed in full force. The Zora had no idea what hit them. Entire Zora warships buckled under the immense gravitational forces, twisting and tearing apart as if they were made of paper. Planetary-level bombardment followed as humanity's doomsday missiles rained down, reducing Zora strongholds on their own planet to craters. The Zora retaliated with their bioswarms, a weapon humanity had already learned to neutralize. The swarms descended upon the human ships like a plague, but this time, humanity had perfected their biological countermeasures. Nanotech missiles tore through the swarms, disintegrating them in mid-flight before they could even touch a ship. As the battle raged, Admiral Ward realized they were nearing the final phase. The Zorith, one station, an ancient citadel that housed the Zora High Command, loomed in the distance, and it was humanity's final target. This station, the heart of Zora power, would be the last bastion of their empire. The final assault, cracking the Zora stronghold. As the battle turned into a chaotic firestorm, humanity's true weapon, the plasma bane, was prepared for its final strike. The Phoenix, battered and scarred from the previous battle, had been recharged and reinforced with the latest technologies. It was ready for its final mission, to deliver the killing blow. Admiral Ward's voice rang out across the communication channels. Deploy the quantum torpedoes. Full strike. The quantum torpedoes, humanity's most advanced weapon, were designed to tear apart the very fabric of reality. These weapons didn't just destroy ships, they displaced them, sending them into alternate dimensions, leaving nothing but an empty void where once there had been life. The Zora High Command was oblivious to the threat until it was too late. The torpedoes shot forth from the human fleet, their arcs of energy piercing through space like comet tails. They slammed into the Zorith, one station, cracking its defenses wide open. Massive explosions erupted as the station's internal systems detonated, sending shock waves across the planet. In a final act of defiance, the Zora launched one last desperate counteroffensive, a fleet of suicide bombers aimed directly at Earth's capital ship. But it was all for nothing. The human fleet was ready. As the Zora flagship, Zorith 1, fell, humanity's fleets launched one final wave of strikes, decimating the remaining Zora ships. Within hours, the Zora Empire lay in ruins. The once proud species, which had threatened the very existence of humanity, was wiped off the face of the galaxy. The aftermath, a new dawn for humanity. As the last remnants of the Zora's fleet turned into smoldering debris, Admiral Ward stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring out into the void. The galaxy was silent, eerily still, as though it, too, was holding its breath. The mission was complete. The Zora had been annihilated. There would be no more attacks on humanity, no more threats to Earth. The Zora were gone, destroyed by the same rage that had fueled humanity's rise. In the months that followed, humanity rebuilt from the ashes of the war. Their victory over the Zora was not just a triumph of technology and tactics, but of sheer, unbreakable will. Humanity had proven once again that they could withstand any storm, face any enemy, and rise from the ashes stronger than before. But Earth's leaders knew this victory came at a cost. The galaxy would never forget the wrath of humanity, and many species would look upon them with a mix of awe and fear. The message was clear. Humanity would never again be the target of anyone's aggression. Humanity had been pushed too far. And when pushed, they responded in the only way they knew how, with total annihilation. The end of the Zora. The battle for Zorth had been humanity's final act of wrath, but it was also a reminder to the galaxy that when you threaten Earth, you unleash the full fury of the human spirit. The Zora were gone. Their once mighty empire lay in ruins, reduced to a smoldering wasteland. Their leaders were dead, their fleets obliterated, and their homeworld was nothing more than a shattered remnant of a species that had overestimated its own power. In the aftermath of the battle, humanity's victory was absolute, but it was also a heavy one. The Zora had been eradicated, but the cost of war had left its mark. Earth's military was battered. The loss of human life was immense, and entire colonies were left in ruins. But the thing about humanity was that they could endure. They always had. Admiral Evelyn Ward stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, the scars of the war still visible in every sector. The Zora were gone, but the war had changed everything. "We've won," she said, her voice steady, though the weight of the victory still hung in the air. "But now we must rebuild, and we must remind the galaxy why no one should ever cross humanity again." The human fleets that had once been spread across the galaxy were now returning to Earth, their mission complete. The Phoenix, battered and scarred, was the last to return, carry with it the souls of those who had given everything in the war. The ship was not just a symbol of humanity's military might. It was a reminder of what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. The Zora may have been eradicated, but the legacy of their destruction would echo to the universe forever. Humanity's new era, a unified front. The war had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of. No longer was Earth simply a member of the Galactic Council. Humanity had proven that they were the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and no one could ever challenge that. But as the galaxy watched the Zora burn, humanity realized that their victory was not just about power. It was about unity. The Zora War had brought humanity together in a way that nothing else had. Rival factions, former enemies, and distant colonies all had rallied to defend Earth, because the attack on Vega Station had been an attack on all of humanity. Now, with the war won and the Zora destroyed, humanity turned its focus inward. The unity forged in battle needed to become a permanent foundation for future. Humanity needed to heal, rebuild, and ensure that no species would ever threaten them again. The Galactic Council, now under human leadership, began working toward a new era, one of collective strength and mutual defense. Admiral Ward, now hailed as a hero, was offered position to lead the council, but she declined. "The battle for humanity is over," she said, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Now it's time for us to build a future where our children don't have to fight for their survival." The Phoenix, along with the rest of humanity's fleet, was mothballed, its legacy now serving as a reminder of humanity's capabilities, a symbol of their strength. But Earth's leaders knew that peace was not a given. It was something that had to be earned and preserved. Humanity had seen firsthand what the cost of complacency could be. The galaxy's new reality, fear and respect. In the months that followed, the universe took notice. The Zora, once the most feared and respected species in the galaxy, had been wiped out. And the species responsible for their extinction? Humanity. As Earth's fleets patrolled the galaxy, ensuring that the remnants of the Zora's allies were dealt with, a message began to spread. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. This was not a threat. It was a promise. The Zora had made the grave mistake of believing that humanity could be easily dominated. They had learned too late that humans would never bow down. They would never submit to tyranny, no matter the cost. The galaxy had seen what happened when humanity's back was against the wall. Now, humanity's name was spoken with a mix of fear and respect. Allies and enemies alike understood one thing: never challenge Earth, never provoke humanity. The war had also forged new alliances. While the Zora had been a dominant force, there were others in the galaxy who now saw the benefits of aligning with humanity. Species that had once been neutral or on the fence about Earth's ambitions began to reach out for peace and cooperation. Humanity had become not just a military powerhouse, but a beacon of resilience and determination. But for those who remained enemies, for those who still thought they could challenge Earth's supremacy, there was a clear message: do so at your own peril. The legacy of humanity's wrath. As time passed, the legacy of the Zora War became woven into the very fabric of humanity's identity. Memorials were built for the fallen soldiers who gave their lives to end the Zora threat. The Phoenix became a museum piece, a symbol of both humanity's might and its darkest hour. Stories of the battle and the destruction of the Zora were passed down through generations, not as a tale of revenge, but as a lesson in the cost of underestimating humanity's resolve. And as Earth's influence grew, so too did its voice in galactic affairs. Humanity wasn't just a player in the universe anymore. It was the dominant force. The Galactic Council, once a body where every species had an equal voice, now found itself under the influence of Earth. And while humanity did not seek to dominate or colonize, it was clear that the era of diplomacy through weakness was over. If you threatened humanity, you faced the full fury of Earth's wrath. As the galaxy settled into this new reality, humanity stood as both protector and ruler, a force to be reckoned with, a species whose strength and willpower could not be matched by anyone. Final thoughts: a new humanity. The human race had proven something in the Zora War, that it was capable of endless endurance, unmatched strategy, and relentless retribution. But more than that, it had proven that humanity would never be silenced, never be broken. No species could ever make humanity angry and survive the consequences. As Earth stood on the precipice of a new era, the galaxy now understood one undeniable truth: humanity would never again be underestimated. The last species that made humanity angry, they had been wiped from the universe. And humanity's message had been made clear: cross Earth again, and there will be no second chances.